Madame Bandayan, pour 4.
The table will now compile the results of the vote.
Yeas pour 177, 177. Nays contre 144, 144.
I declare the motion carried. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member for Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 37 years back on this day, Air India Flight 182, operating on Montreal, London, Delhi, Mumbai route, was blown up mid-air from a bomb planted by Canadian extremists. It killed all 329 passengers and crew members, including 268 Canadian citizens. The bombing of this Air India flight is the largest mass killing in Canadian history. It was the deadliest act of aviation terrorism in the world until 9/11. Canada is a pluralistic country, and we honor the fallen. In this National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Terrorism, my sympathies are with the families of the victims who still experience pain. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel. The Honourable Member for Regina Capel. Okay. There seems to be a technical problem. What we'll do is we'll go on to the Honourable Member for Humber River Black Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Back to that.
Today I want to acknowledge the tremendous work of Representative Winston Wei-Yi Chen, the 10th representative of Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Canada since it was established in 1992, and a friend of many of us as parliamentarians. Representative Chen assumed his duties in Ottawa 4 years ago, and it has been a fruitful partnership ever since for both Canada and Taiwan. Representative Chen is now assuming a new post, and I would like to thank him for his friendship and dedicated work in nourishing and promoting Taiwan-Canada relations. Representative Chen has been serving in various roles in Canada for over 10 years. He helped launch the exploratory discussions regarding the Canada-Taiwan Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Arrangements. He also facilitated timely and generous donations of masks and gowns from Taiwan to Canada in response to the pandemic. And these are just a few of the highlights. I know that for Representative Chen, Canada has become more than a job. It has also become his family. He was married in Canada, his children were born here, and he fell in love with both our land and country. I thank Representative Chen on behalf of all of us as part of the friendship group and wish him the best of success and many more years of service to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I too would like to pay tribute to Trade Representative Winston Chen from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Canada. He is leaving his post after 4 years, and we will all miss his dedication, thoughtful ideas, and sense of humor. Mr. Chen worked hard to strengthen the already robust ties between Canada and Taiwan. In addition to over $6 billion in bilateral trade every year, Taiwan is a democratic country that shares many of the same values and goals on the world stage. In an increasingly unstable world, developing closer ties with like-minded peoples is all the more important. Mr. Chen really came through for Canada during the pandemic when he and his team helped with the donation of over 500,000 masks from Taiwan to Canada. His dedication to Taiwan's participation on an international level was impressive, as well as his work on establishing more resilient supply chains. These will serve both our countries as well as many others in the years to come. Mr. Chen, we thank you for your hard work improving the relations between Canada and Taiwan, and we wish you all the best in your future career. Ju Ni Wei Lao Hao Yun.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-La-Métis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to give a shout out to the young people of my riding at the end of their school year. On the eve of Quebec's national holiday, thousands of young people are leaving school for a well-deserved vacation. Their heads are full of new ideas and their hearts are filled with great plans. Finally, high school graduates can gather and celebrate the end of this chapter with their prom. It's the end of an important stage, but the beginning of something even more beautiful. Friends, what I want to say to you is this: enjoy and relish every moment. From now on, the world is your oyster. Savor it, live your new knowledge to the fullest. Be proud of who you are, and above all, be proud of where you come from. Our beautiful region is full of talent of all kinds. Continue to make it proud as only you can do. Have a great summer and a great vacation. The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Mr. Speaker, I'm here today to honour a friend and prominent leader in my riding who will be leaving our community soon.
As rabbi since 2013. Our synagogue in Dollard is home to one of the most vibrant Jewish communities in Canada, a community I'm honored to serve. Whether it's organizing family fun programs such as the Purim Carnival, bringing the synagogue's Hanukkah to home celebrating, delivering sermons and programs online during COVID, or recently traveling to Poland to assist Jewish refugees fleeing Ukraine, Rabbi Fishman's contributions and legacy are numerous. I'd like to thank the Rabbi for his service to the West Island Jewish community and society at large. Our community is losing a great leader. I'm looking forward to working with his successor. Mark, I'll miss our thoughtful conversations. Thank you for your years of service. I really wish you and your family the very best.
Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's cause for celebration in my riding of Fundy Royal this week as our communities come together to congratulate the class of 2022. Graduates, I want to extend my sincerest congratulations to you all as you celebrate this milestone with your friends and with your family. You can proudly reflect on the last few years you've spent learning lessons both in and outside of the classroom. These lessons have formed the strong foundation for you to now build your futures upon. From here, you will take what you've learned and go off to make your mark on our communities, our province, our country, and indeed, the world. I look forward to seeing your many great accomplishments. Congratulations once again to the class of 2022.
The Honourable Member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, whether supporting homeowners to retrofit their homes, get into an electric vehicle, or ride an electric bus, working together at all levels to green our lifestyle will save us money, build a stronger economy, and protect the planet we cherish. Last week, I was ecstatic to hear that Infrastructure Canada's zero-emissions bus strategy is reaching my community. An MOU was signed by the Canada Infrastructure Bank and Durham Region that will see as many as 100 battery electric buses purchased by 2027. This investment of $68.2 million is repayable, low-interest financing, and builds on the previous investment by our government of $43 million to fund the rapid bus transit route better connecting our region. The replacement of the current diesel-powered fleet will reduce operating costs and will save 8,000 tons of carbon emissions per year. To date, the Infrastructure Bank has invested over $1.5 billion toward more than 5,000 zero-emission buses across Canada. Now that's progress, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Rise today to celebrate an amazing run of 32 years for the City of Surrey's cultural manager, Leanne Davison, who recently retired earlier this year. As Surrey has grown from a rural community to one that will soon become British Columbia's largest city, Leanne's dedication and passion were at the heartbeat of the city's arts and cultural landscape. Our population has grown dramatically over Leanne's tenure, and whether it was exhibitions of local artists, presentations of innovative and interactive art, or the acquisition of significant works from artists across Canada, she has left an indelible mark. Thank you to Leanne Davison for her contribution in enriching all our lives in Surrey.
Bravo.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, this government is bringing forward firearms legislation that will impact lawful gun owners and not do nearly enough to address gun crime. The arbitrary handgun ban in Bill C-21 will do nothing to stop gun smuggling, nor will it prevent gang violence. There are, however, Mr. Speaker, some measures of this bill that Conservatives support, such as provisions to keep firearms out of the hands of those who have committed domestic abuse. And despite Conservative efforts to fast-track these pieces of the legislation, the NDP Liberal coalition teamed up to block it. Mr. Speaker, I believe revealing their goals to be political rather than practical, but on this side of the House, we are always going to stand up for common sense measures to ensure that Canadians are safe and that guns are out of the hands of our criminals instead of the soft on crime approach from this government. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kings Hants.
Mr. Speaker, hockey is a Canadian pastime that brings us together and makes us proud, particularly when our national teams represent our country on the international stage. And that's exactly what happened this month when the national women's under-18 team won a gold medal in Madison, Wisconsin, beating our arch rivals, the Americans, in a back-and-forth 3-2 game. I'm sure I speak on behalf of my colleagues in congratulating all the players, staff, and management involved in winning the World Championship. And as a Nova Scotia Member of Parliament, I would highlight that we punch above our weight in hockey talent. Whether Olympic gold medalist Jill Saunier, Blair Turnbull, or NHL stars Sidney Crosby and Nathan MacKinnon, truly some of the best players in the world. I want to celebrate our next generation of stars. Abby Adam, a forward who lives in Wolfville, and Lucy Phillips, a goaltender originally from Fall River. Wow. Abby and Lucy, we are proud of your hard work to make the national team and all your dedication in bringing home a World Championship gold medal to Nova Scotia. Well done. Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this government is failing at so many basic matters. It is failing at providing passports to Canadians. It is failing Afghan refugees who assisted our brave men and women in a war zone. It is failing with processing immigration application, now millions of files behind. Frontline government employees are now simply resorting to telling their frustrated clients to call their MPs, just as the Minister of Services Canada has recommended. One can imagine the significant increase in call volumes to our offices, and our caseworkers are doing their utmost to fill the void. The people of Calgary Centre and me are extremely lucky to have Shani Papp in my office. There's not a week that goes by that I don't get glowing comments about the invaluable assistance she has provided. The volume of files she handles is immense and broad. While government is working at half speed, often from home, Shani has stepped in to ensure people that need essential services are getting them. Today, I join my constituents in thanking Shani for all she does for us. Thank you.
The honourable member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, starting this July, the NDP Liberal Coalition is taking its first step to increasing the retirement age to 75. The decision by the NDP Liberal Coalition to practice age discrimination by creating separate classes of the aged in the amount paid out for the old age security has made seniors' worst fears realized. The Socialist Coalition is shifting the financial burden onto the backs of seniors to pay for Canada's excessive debt. Seniors see this age discrimination as an effort to force Canadians under 75 to remain in the workplace to continue paying taxes for the tax, borrow, and wasteful spending Liberal policy of high inflation. It's robbing seniors of their lifetime savings for what should be their golden years. Inflation erodes the worth of savings. This is a massive societal shift. People are being forced to work longer and needing to work longer. The Socialist Coalition needs to be held accountable for left-wing inflation policies that are robbing Canadians of retirement that they've been dreaming of.
Good statement.
The honourable member for Vancouver, Granville.
Mr. Speaker, today is the National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Terrorism. 37 years ago today, Air India Flight 182 was blown out of the sky, killing 329 innocent souls. 268 Canadians, moms, dads, grandparents, friends. 82 children who would never come home. To this day, this remains the single largest act of terrorism perpetrated against Canadians, the result of a conspiracy conceived, planned, and executed in Canada. Yet despite the advocacy of the victims' families, who have battled racism, discrimination, and indignity, few Canadians know about this tragedy. We don't learn about it in schools. We hear little about it in the media. It cannot be this way. This is and must always be remembered by this House and by all Canadians as a Canadian tragedy. So as we remember, let us reflect on the words carved into memorials for the victims, from Vancouver to Bantry, Ireland. Time flies, suns rise and shadows fall. Let it pass by. Love reigns forever over all. May love always reign forever over all.
The honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, the Vancouver Island Counselling Centre for Immigrants and Refugees provides mental health counselling, specially trained interpreters, and culturally appropriate trauma services. Ukrainians fleeing Putin's war have been arriving on Vancouver Island, and many are understandably traumatized. But while the federal government is providing settlement services, there is no funding for mental health support. These victims of war should be covered by the interim federal health program. Organizations like Vicar were already responding to increased demands and now are providing mental health supports without funding. In addition, there's a serious issue with clinical counselors in BC not being able to register as providers with the interim federal health program, no matter how qualified and experienced they may be. The IFHP needs to provide consideration for professional equivalencies. These issues negatively impact refugees who struggle to find providers. I want to say a huge thank you to the counselors, the interpreters, and the staff at Vicar. Thank you for your incredibly important work.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to see that a fine local organization is making its mark outside Quebec. La Brunante was named Small Co-op of the Year at the Cooperatives and Mutuals Canada Awards. This recognition highlights the unique impact of a co-op in its community. La Brunante is a magnificent model of housing and solidarity for seniors located in the village of Racine in the Eastern Townships since 2003. And its model has been followed. Over the years, La Brunante has even spread throughout the world, having given conferences on seniors and aging as many as 3 times before the WHO. Having had the chance to visit this co-op myself, I was able to see this magnificent model of collective home care. Seniors have the opportunity to share their knowledge and know-how. Through mutual aid, seniors maintain a sense of being useful. I'd like to take this opportunity to salute 2 of the founders of La Brunante, Gaston Michaud and his wife Mariette Bombardier. Congratulations on this well-deserved award. Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, as we will soon rise, let's recap what we've learned. A Canadian diplomat attended a party at the Russian embassy and embarrassed our country. But the minister says it's not her fault because her staff don't check their email. We learned the Emergencies Act was not used at the request of the police, but the minister falsely claimed otherwise. They don't get a pass on passports. People camp out for hours every day, but the minister points to a spike in demand, but we will learn that that wasn't true. We have chaos in our airports, but the minister blamed rusty travelers. Inflation is out of control, but the minister says not her fault, despite injecting a $100 billion stimulus that makes inflation in the lives of Canadians worse. We found out that the commissioner of the RCMP promised the PMO and the public safety minister to help them achieve their political objectives after a horrible tragedy. In response, the former minister tried to shift the blame on an RCMP superintendent for doing his job with integrity. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was a school teacher. He knows you can't pass students who don't do their work or take responsibility. He should flunk them, but he won't. At the very least, he and the lot of them should spend their summer at remedial school. The Canadian people deserve better.
The honourable member for Hochelaga. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week we are celebrating our Fête Nationale, Quebec's national holiday, in my riding of Hochelaga and all across Quebec. The theme of this year's celebrations is Our Language with 1,000 Accents. With its French language, Quebec is a strong nation with a unique identity, with a strong artistic community, a resilient and inspiring entrepreneurial and community culture. Today we celebrate an open and inclusive Quebec. We celebrate a Quebec where all are welcome, regardless of their accent. Quebec nationalism belongs to all Quebecers. It's a nationalism that transcends political party boundaries. It's the affirmation that the future of Quebec is intimately linked to its ability to take its place in Canada and in the world. That Quebec is an example of language protection and integration of immigrants. Many thousands, if not millions, of immigrant Quebecers are not anecdotes. They contribute every day to the survival of the French language. Let's be proud of them and focus on what we have in common, including our goals, to create harmony and respect for the uniqueness of Quebec. Happy Fête Nationale.
Oral questions, question orale, l'honorable.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Promises, promises but never results. That is the Liberal government's trademark, Mr. Speaker. Despite the fact that it knew for months that Passport Canada was going to fly off a cliff, the minister accelerated the process. Now, people are being told to go online in order to pick a number, to go in line in order to get a passport. But people were waiting all night in the rain for a number. But now it's another new strategy. It takes 15 weeks to train someone new. Another minister says that she hired a lot of people. So who will finally take the responsibility of this monumental Liberal fiasco? The Honourable Minister for Families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I understand the frustration of Canadians with regards to passports. Starting yesterday, we have had a new strategy, and people outside of Guy Favreau, for example, have received appointments. 250 people in Laval and Saint-Laurent got to talk to an upper manager. They have been able to get an appointment, and now triage is happening in 12-hour blocks to make sure that everyone can travel in time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, just imagine this government is so disconnected that it cannot even give simple services to Canadians. It's only today that they've started talking to people waiting outside, Mr. Speaker, but don't you worry. The minister says that now there's toilets, which is great for the rest of the summer. We are looking forward to a very long summer. Inflation. All Canadians have been affected by a rapidly rising cost of living, the highest level of inflation in 40 years when there was another Trudeau at the head of the country. All responsible countries are reducing gas taxes. Why is this government not is refusing to do what is essential for people? The Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we understand that the cost of living is an important issue for Canadians. And that is the reason for which we have taken tangible and concrete measures to help the most vulnerable Canadians. We have increased benefits for Canadian workers. So a 3-person family will now have $2,400 more in their pockets this year. We've increased old age security for seniors, a $815 increase. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. But no one's listening, because no one believes that this will have an immediate effect on people's lives. We have a Minister for Public Safety who is duping Canadians in order to justify political decisions. We have a former minister who intervened in a police investigation on a tragedy in order to use information for political means. Darren Campbell, an officer from the RCMP, said that the commissioner for the RCMP said that she had promised the minister and the PMO that the RCMP was going to publish the information. My question is simple. Does the Prime Minister believe an RCMP officer Darren Campbell in this case?
Mr. Speaker, I have never and will not criticize a serving member of the RCMP. I was not a party to the discussions that took place between the Commissioner and her subordinates, and we have made no comment on that discussion. But, Mr. Speaker, I will reiterate that there was no interference in this matter, and the Commissioner of the RCMP has confirmed in her statement on Tuesday that there was no interference or pressure brought to bear by this government.
The Honourable Member for Cumberland-Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, there are handwritten notes confirming political interference during the active police investigation in Portapique, Nova Scotia in 2020. These notes are from a well-respected and experienced RCMP officer. Instead of honesty, we hear this minister doubling down on his rhetoric and disrespecting Parliament and Nova Scotia and blaming other people. Given the gravity of this situation, will the minister admit the political interference and stop this shameful performance?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course not, because it wouldn't be true. There was no interference in this matter. I would also take the opportunity to remind this House that there is currently an independent public inquiry taking place in Nova Scotia, the Mass Casualty Commission, in which these very matters are being addressed and where witnesses will be called to testify under oath. The work of the Mass Casualty Commission is important to the families of the victims of this terrible tragedy and important to the people of Nova Scotia, and we intend to support the Commission in doing its important work.
The Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, the ongoing disinformation spawned by the former Minister of Public Safety is re-victimizing families and all those affected by the events in Portapique. The clear notes provided by Superintendent Campbell implicitly implicate the minister in peddling political pressure on Commissioner Lucky. Certainly, we all know from the comments of other officers that Superintendent Campbell is an exemplary officer. If there's truly nothing to hide, will this minister submit to an in-depth investigation? Yes or no?
Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, I have absolutely no doubt that Superintendent is an exemplary officer, and I don't question his integrity in any way. I would simply remind this House that the fact is that there was no interference in this matter, and the Commissioner of the RCMP herself issued a statement on Tuesday in which he said very clearly that there was no interference and no pressure brought to bear. That's the facts, Mr. Speaker, but I'd also remind the member opposite that we have initiated an independent public inquiry that is examining these very issues, and that work will be very important to the families of the victims of this tragedy.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the federal government's incompetence in managing passports is outstanding. The only solution isn't appointment vouchers, as the Minister is proposing. It's not to hold a 50-50 draw. It's not by organising Hunger Games. It's by opening offices 7 days a week. People are in line and they're there 7 days a week. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is the Fête Nationale. The Minister does not have the right to let citizens without an appointment today sleep outside for another 4 nights until Monday. That is inhumane. When is she finally going to understand that offices must be open 7 days a week with extended hours? The Honourable Minister for Families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The situation in Montreal is truly unacceptable, and that is the reason for which, starting yesterday, we had teams of managers to talk to people in line to make sure that everyone had a conversation with a manager so that they would receive an appointment. Service Canada offices will be open until midnight tonight to help people and serve people who have a new strategy that's been implemented, and appointments are being offered on Fridays and Saturdays to people who are lining up today and whose travel isn't imminent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The Minister will go to the queues in Quebec and ask people if they are satisfied with being told that this is unacceptable, that we must do better, that we are working hard. Mr. Speaker, the offices must be open 7 days a week with extended hours so long as there are no more lines. People are waiting day and night in the rain, completely abandoned. Tension is mounting. People are getting angry. People are in tears. They are victims of federal incompetence. So, is the government finally going to start actually governing, or is it going to have to ask the help from the army? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Service Canada staff are already working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. They are here from dawn. They are serving Canadians. They are there on Saturdays as well in order to process passports and receive applications during the day. They print passports at night. They're working very hard in this very extraordinary situation that we're experiencing in Montreal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Speaker, the cost of living is hitting Canadians tremendously hard. We've shared stories as New Democrats about the Canadians that are suffering right now can't afford the groceries, can't afford gas. On top of that, CMHC has put forward a report that we are 3 million homes short of ensuring that Canadians can find affordable homes. In fact, that people will not be able to find a home they can afford. Given how serious things are, the government is just waiting to see that it'll go away. It's not going to go away on its own. The government must act to help people now. When will they act to support families who are in need of help?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
What do I get? Very, very aware of the need to build more housing supply in Canada. That's why we've introduced the Housing Accelerator Fund. That is why we are investing $4 billion that will go directly into municipalities so that they can build more housing supply and that they can do it faster. We're the only government in Canadian history that has taken that step to create systemic change to produce more housing supply. In addition to that, we're also investing in more supply through the Rapid Housing Initiative, more investments in co-op housing, and more investments in the co-investment program.
Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
We know that the cost of living is going up and that it has struck families hard. It's more and more difficult. It's sometimes impossible to make ends meet. In these difficult times, we've also read a recent report that says that if the government does not act in Canada, people will not be able to find housing. So, taking all of this into account, when will the government finally and rapidly act in order to help families during this crisis? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we understand that the cost of living is a very important issue and a very difficult issue for many, many families in Canada. And we also understand that housing is one of the most delicate issues, and that is the reason for which our budget targeted this issue in particular. It's a complicated issue, but housing is essential. We will invest. We will build housing units for Canadians, and we will give the most vulnerable people $500 extra for housing.
For South Shore St. Margaret's.
The Nova Scotia inquiry revealed that RCMP Commissioner Lucky chastised lead investigators, saying, quotes, "The commissioner then said that we did not understand that this was tied to the pending gun control legislation." Also quoted in the documents were RCMP communications officer who said, quotes, "It was all political pressure." That is 100% the minister and the prime minister. Why won't the government believe that investigating officers are telling the truth?
Well, Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I would remind the member that I've already stated unequivocally that there was no interference in this matter, and I believe that I would refer the member to the Commissioner's statement in which he also stated unequivocally that there was no interference or pressure. But, Mr. Speaker, Canadians, including those who were directly impacted by this terrible tragedy, have expressed concerns about when and how the RCMP shared information with the public. And that is precisely why, Mr. Speaker, the government specified in the order of reference so that the Mass Casualty Commission examine the communications approach taken both during and after this event. The work of the Casualty Commission is important, Mr. Speaker.
Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
This minister opposed the creation of the inquiry, and it's shameful how the Liberals are trying to evade accountability for this outrageous political interference. The minister continues to quote a supposedly independent statement from Commissioner Lucky, a statement that was likely cleared by the Public Safety Minister's office before issuing. In essence, he is quoting himself and impugning the integrity of the investigators. So, when did the Prime Minister's office and the Minister of Public Safety's office approve the Commissioner's statement that this minister is now using himself to defend himself?
Great question. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The member may not be aware that the Commissioner of the RCMP is independent of government and that there cannot be, in law, any interference with her work. And I would remind the member that on Tuesday, the Commissioner issued her own statement in which she stated unequivocally that the principal...
I'm going to interrupt the Honourable Minister. I'm about 20 feet away from him, and I'm having a hard time hearing him. I'm just going to ask him to continue. Maybe not start over, but continue. Unless it continues, then we'll have to start from the top. The Honourable Minister.
I was referencing for this House the statement that the Commissioner released on Tuesday, in which she said, "I take the principle of police independence extremely seriously, and it has been and will continue to be fully respected in all interactions. Mr. Speaker, that's the truth, and there was no interference in this matter, as there has been no interference by this government in any police operation.
The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, this is revolting. A great superintendent, Darren Campbell, reports that there was political and partisan interference in the tragedy that happened in Nova Scotia. This is absolutely revolting. It's disgusting. Mr. Speaker, many people trust in Darren Campbell. Like us. In the Globe and Mail, former RCMP boss Bob Paulson said, and I quote, "Darren is one of the best investigators on the team. He is a highly reliable officer with very strong integrity." Why does the minister simply not believe Mr. Campbell?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. I am not in any way questioning the integrity or the honesty of the superintendent. I know former Commissioner Paulson very well, and I take him very much at his word when he commends the officer for his integrity. However, Mr. Speaker, I will just simply remind this House that in this case there was no interference in this matter, and secondly, that the Commissioner has issued a statement in which he also says that there has been no interference in this matter. And so, Mr. Speaker, those are simply the facts.
The Honourable Member,
The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Well, here are the facts, if we want to talk facts. The minister said that there was no interference, but then Mr. Campbell says that there was interference. So who is telling the truth? Very serious people are saying that Mr. Campbell is right. In the Globe and Mail, Peter Lepine, a former superintendent, said, "I've followed Darren since he started. He's an extremely competent police officer and well prepared for major investigations." Mr. Speaker, choosing between the minister and Mr. Campbell, we choose Mr. Campbell. Why is the minister trying to avoid the truth?
Mr. Speaker, and again, as I understand it, Superintendent Campbell's referred to a conversation of which we were not party that he had with his commissioner. And I'm not in any way questioning the man's integrity. My understanding is he is an exemplary police officer. But, Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. There was no interference in this matter, and the commissioner has confirmed that in her statement she released on Tuesday.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, the government has hit a new low to ram through legislation. Superintendent Campbell noted that Commissioner Lucky told the RCMP that she had promised the Minister of Public Safety and the Prime Minister's office that the force would disclose the type of firearms used in the mass shooting because it was advanced the government's pending gun control legislation. Will the Prime Minister admit that he used the suffering and death of Nova Scotians for personal political gain?
Yes or no? The Honourable Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, that statement is absolutely false. And in fact, I would remind this House that our government promised Canadians in the summer of 2019 that we would strengthen gun control and that we would ban military-style assault rifles.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt. The Honourable Minister from the top, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as I've said, the member's comments, unfortunately, are absolutely false. And in fact, I would remind this House that in the summer of 2019, we made a promise to Canadians that we would strengthen gun control and ban military assault rifles. When the Prime Minister appointed me Public Safety Minister, he placed in my mandate letter a direction to ban military assault rifles. Mr. Speaker, we made that promise to Canadians, and we kept that promise to Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, during the April 28th meeting with the RCMP Commissioner and Superintendent Campbell, handwritten notes state that the Commissioner promised to release information about an active criminal investigation to support a pending announcement on gun control. Now, the Minister of Emergency Preparedness has been standing in this House saying that there was no interference, but the Prime Minister just said there was no undue interference. The story is changing. The Commissioner was working with the government to advance their political agenda. Does the Minister deny it?
Before we go on to the answer, two things. I want everyone to respect each other. And when we are making statements in the House, please be very judicious on the words you use. Accusing someone of being, I'm hearing names from one side and other absolute
terms from the other. I just want to remind everyone to be judicious. We want to leave on a nice note before we go to summer. So, the Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and perhaps it will be helpful if I read the entire statement of the RCMP Commissioner issued Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, the Commissioner writes, it's important to note that the sharing of information and briefings with the Minister of Public Safety are a necessary action, particularly during the mass shooting on Canadian soil. This is standard procedure, and it does not impact the integrity of ongoing investigations or interfere with the independence of the RCMP. And she concludes, Mr. Speaker, by stating, I take the principle of police independence extremely seriously. It has been and will continue to be fully respected in all interactions. Mr. Speaker, there was no interference.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, no one is surprised by the passport crisis. The Union warned the government in January. It was predictable. Since 2018, the government has cut 450 positions at passports. So, in the very midst of a crisis, the 600 hirings that the Minister is talking about are not an increase in service, they are just a return to pre-pandemic levels. Mr. Speaker, we are in crisis. This requires a crisis effort. When will the Minister deploy a sufficient number of people to open offices 7 days a week? The Honourable Minister for Families. Mr. Speaker, passport offices are open on weekends in the busiest urban centres to ensure that people who need their passport in an urgent manner can get one. We have hired 600 staff. Starting in January, we are hiring 600 more. We are reassigning Service Canada staff and other department staff, for example, CRA staff, StatsCan staff, IRCC staff, and staff from other offices. We are putting everything in position to rectify this unacceptable situation for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, the Union is trying to find these 600 people. Well, they found 5 new people at Guy Favreau. Well, the Union expects a return to normalcy only in October. The chaos cannot last another 4 months. The Minister can call on retirees for help. She can move resources from other departments. She can create a training blitz for new staff. At the very least, she could let in people who are sleeping outside and make sure that they are treated humanely, even if it means hiring out other rooms. That is crisis management. What is the Minister waiting for? The Honourable Minister for Families. Mr. Speaker, we have already done everything that my honourable colleague has enumerated. It takes 15 weeks to train a passport officer. This training started months ago, and the new class will start on Monday. This is not something that can be changed overnight. This has already been in place for months, Mr. Speaker. The situation in Montreal is better today. In Laval and Saint-Laurent, we have made sure that everyone receives an appointment. At Guy Favreau, we are currently making sure that the hundreds of people there receive their appointments, and we will continue to put everything in position to serve Canadians. The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, there is a gap between what is said and what is done. The passport crisis is not just an administrative fiasco. There are people at the very end of their tether in the rain as we speak. There are people missing their parents' funerals. There are people who are losing work contracts. And the Minister's message to these people is basically, your call is important to us. When will the people in the queues feel that this is actually true, that their situation is being taken seriously? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are taking this situation very seriously, and that is the very reason for which we have changed our strategy in Montreal. The situation in Montreal is an extraordinary one. It's different to other parts of the country. We've had 1,500, 2,000 people waiting outside of passport offices in the past 7 days. Every single person in the line today has received an appointment, either for today, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, in order to ensure that they will receive their passports. That is what we want, and that is what we are doing, Mr. Speaker.
For Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Emergency Preparedness politically interfered in a mass murder investigation to advance his own party's political agenda. RCMP Superintendent Darren Campbell witnessed this interference firsthand, but the minister is claiming he's just made this all up. Former RCMP Commissioner Polson said Superintendent Darren Campbell is one of the best investigators in the force and a highly reliable officer with tremendous integrity. Why should Canadians believe this minister over that of a well-respected RCMP officer?
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, I have absolutely no doubt that Superintendent Campbell is, in fact, an exemplary officer and have absolutely no intention of questioning his integrity. However, Mr. Speaker, I also want to make it very clear that there was no interference in this case for any reason, and with respect to the prohibition of assault rifles, it was something that we were deeply committed to. And, Mr. Speaker, the vicious murder of 22 Canadians using firearms deepened our resolve to make Canadians safe and to keep our promise.
Yeah, your promise.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's no surprise here that this minister and this Prime Minister pressured the RCMP Commissioner into doing their bidding. Let's remember that the Ethics Commissioner found this Prime Minister guilty for political interference when he pressured former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould into doing his bidding, but she got fired because she said no. Now the minister is accusing Superintendent Darren Campbell, who has a stellar reputation, of just making up a story. So how can the minister expect Canadians to believe his unethical, scandal-plagued government over that of a stellar RCMP officer?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, the only thing being made up is criticism of Superintendent Campbell. I offer none. I'm absolutely certain the man is an exemplary police officer and a man of integrity, and I have no criticism of him. What I am advising this House, however, is that there was no interference in this case. There was no pressure brought upon the Commissioner for any reason, and the Commissioner has...
Just going to stop for a second again. I'll follow the advice of the Honourable Member and let the Honourable Minister start again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to dispute, frankly, a false statement by my colleague across the aisle. I have not and will not criticize. I offer no criticism whatsoever to Superintendent Campbell, who I believe to be, based on all of the evidence, an exemplary officer, and I'm not questioning his integrity. However, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important for me to be very clear. There was no interference in this case, Mr. Speaker. There was no pressure brought to bear on the RCMP Commissioner, and in fact, the Commissioner has confirmed that there was no pressure in a statement that she issued on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Member from Grand Prairie, Mackenzie.
Leah Scatterland, Director of Communications for the RCMP, said this of Commissioner Lucky. She went out and did it. It was all political pressure. That is 100% the minister and the Prime Minister. And we have a commissioner that doesn't push back. Mr. Speaker, that minister has said that he trusts these RCMP members. He says he stands behind the commissioner. The question is, who's not telling the truth?
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Well, Mr. Speaker, histrionics aside, I would direct the members to the Commissioner's statement from Tuesday, in which she makes very clear that there was no interference. But, Mr. Speaker, I'd remind this House that Canadians, including those who were directly impacted by this tragedy, expressed very serious concerns about how and when the RCMP shared information with the public. And in response to the concerns expressed by the victims and families in this terrible tragedy, our government specified in the order of reference to the Mass Casualty Commission that they examined the communications approach taken both during and after this event. Mr. Speaker, that commission will hear testimony under oath, and their findings will be important to provide accurate information to the families of this terrible tragedy.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, families who lost loved ones in the worst mass shooting in Canadian history want answers. The idea that a government would compromise this investigation is unacceptable, Nova Scotians have suffered enough. There are very serious allegations of interference in the RCMP's investigation for the Liberals' political gain. Now, yesterday, the minister questioned the accuracy of these allegations, but the integrity of the claims is supported by a former RCMP commissioner. Will the minister be transparent in explaining what role the PMO played in this investigation?
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to explain to the member. The Prime Minister's office nor the Public Safety Minister's office had any role in interfering or pressuring the RCMP to make any operational decisions with respect to the investigation or in their communications around the investigation. But we did hear very serious criticism and concern by the families of the victims of this terrible tragedy and by Nova Scotians across the province with respect to the communications that took place during this event and after. And it's precisely why we have tasked the Mass Casualty Commission with looking very specifically at the communications that took place both during and after this event, because those families deserve.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, health experts are raising the alarm. According to the Canadian Medical Association, our healthcare system is collapsing around us. Healthcare workers are dealing with severe burnout and leaving the profession. Patients are being treated in cars, wait months for diagnosis, and are suffering without care. Despite this, the Liberals are missing in action. Will this government call an immediate meeting with provinces and territories to address the healthcare staffing crisis and provide significant, stable, long-term federal funding for healthcare to Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm delighted to be able to speak to that matter. We have had many discussions and a lot of actions in the last few weeks and months with my colleagues, health ministers. It is true, our healthcare workers are very burdened physically and mentally with COVID-19 and many other serious issues. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking again this afternoon with my colleagues, health ministers, on that topic and many others. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While many Canadians struggle with mental health issues, certain groups in Canada are more likely to face disproportionate challenges among accessing mental health supports. Recently, the Minister for Mental Health and Addictions announced $8.6 million to support community-based programs related to mental health promotion. This will increase health equity, help to address the underlying determinants of health, and improve supports. Can the Minister inform this House on the funding our government announced to support the mental health of Canadians? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Mental Health.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Kitchener-Conestoga for the question and his hard work and advocacy on mental health, but also the importance of music and the arts. We are committed to addressing disparities and promoting positive mental health. This funding has created comprehensive support systems for people in need of them, investing in these community-led projects that address the mental health of children, youth, refugees and newcomers, and their caregivers, integral in our holistic approach to healing. We will continue to support projects which have the potential to improve health outcomes and which support mental health and address substance use of people across the country.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, at 7.7%, inflation is at another record high. The price of gas this week in Dryden is $2.15 a litre. It's $2.20 in Kenora and over $2.30 in Red Lake and Sioux Lookout. Yet this government is the only in the G7 that is not considering a plan to provide immediate relief at the pumps. Mr. Speaker, when will this government get serious about the affordability crisis we are facing and provide a real plan to address inflation?
Honourable Minister for Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've said, Canada is focused very much on two elements of this. The first is addressing the affordability challenges facing Canadians. That is something that is critically important for all government members on this side of the House. My colleague, the Minister of Finance, went through a number of initiatives that are underway to try to address the affordability issue for Canadians. But we are also working internationally to address the energy security crisis by increasing production of oil and gas alongside our American counterparts, our Brazilian counterparts, and others to ensure that we're actually stabilizing global energy markets and bringing prices down.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood St. James, Assiniboia Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, this week Canadians received even more devastating news caused by this government. Inflation rose to 7.7% in May. This included a 12% rise in the price of gasoline and a 9.7% increase in the prices of groceries, all basic necessities for working families in my riding. When will this Liberal NDP government finally acknowledge that their plan to pour gasoline on the fire with their out-of-control, excessive spending is actually hurting Canadians?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives really need to pick a lane when it comes to economic policy. Half of the time, Mr. Speaker, we hear them proposing tax expenditure. And then the other half of the time, they accuse us of spending too much money to support Canadians. Now, I want to tell you, Mr. Speaker, during COVID, we did support Canadians, and that was the right thing to do. And we had a policy that was relentlessly focused on a jobs recovery. And, Mr. Speaker, it has worked. 117% of jobs recovered, compared to just 96% in the U.S.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that comment is completely out of touch with what people are going through. That's right. You know, the last time inflation was this high, my parents were buying our first family microwave. We had a prime minister with the same last name as the current one, and Joni Loves Chachi was the new sitcom. 7.7% inflation isn't just a number. An Ipsos survey found more and more Canadians believe that their standard of living is decreasing. A dad in my riding said his family of 5 is now spending $400 a week on food, and he goes without meals so his kids can eat. When will this government stop making excuses, stop blaming others, and do anything to tackle inflation?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we absolutely understand that the cost of living is a real challenge for Canadians. And I would start by pointing out that having a job is the single most important thing for most Canadians when it comes to affording the cost of living. And that's why an unemployment rate at 5.1% is really, really important and something we work together to achieve. I also want to say, Mr. Speaker, I know that Canadians are smart, and I know that Canadians understand inflation is a global phenomenon, Mr. Speaker. This is Vladimir Putin's inflation, and Canadians know it.
The Honourable Member for Mission Metzke Fraser Canyon.
Well, Mr. Speaker, inflation might be over 7% nationally, but it's over 8% in British Columbia. And these levels have not been seen since the last Trudeau was in office. Families in Mission Metzke Fraser Canyon are struggling to put food on the table. They're struggling to pay $2.30 for a liter of gas, and they can't even afford to get to work. Yet this government refuses to act. Now, last week, Scotiabank's chief economist came out and they basically said, Government of Canada, rein in your spending. So if the Liberals won't heed the advice of the Conservatives, will they at least listen to one of Canada's top economists and stop screwing over Canadians?
Again, I just want to remind the honourable members to use their language judiciously, like you were in a classroom talking to students. I'm sure nobody would want to hear language like that in a classroom if they were talking, and there are children watching this program, so let's try to keep it clean. Hold it. Whoa. Order. Order. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government absolutely understands that fiscal restraint is an important part of our fight against inflation. And Mr. Speaker, that is what we put forward in the budget in April, as recognized by S&P with our AAA credit rating. In fact, Canada is tied with the U.S. for the fastest rate of fiscal consolidation, of debt and deficit reduction in the G7. But, Mr. Speaker, I know that member opposite ran in the election last year, and I'd like to remind him that on the campaign trail, they actually proposed more spending, a bigger deficit than we did.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verts. Mr. Speaker, the federal government is stealing $350 million that it had promised our municipalities for green infrastructure and transit. It promised that in an agreement signed with Quebec, but it's gone back on its signature and is pocketing the money. The Bloc Québécois was already denouncing that betrayal, and today the Quebec Union of Municipalities and the Mayor of Montreal are also asking the same thing. They're asking for the signed agreement to be respected. Because if you sign an agreement and you don't send the money promised, that's theft. Will the government give the municipalities the $350 million that were agreed to? The Honourable Minister.
Mr.
Extend this for another year.
Okay, we seem to be having some technical difficulties. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am very pleased to answer my colleague's question. We are staying in contact with the Government of Quebec currently on a number of priorities, including the federal funding that my colleague mentioned. We will check and finalize the details of that federal funding to build on previous successes of our collaboration with the Quebec government. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, at committee 2 weeks ago, the minister said that Quebec wouldn't get any of the $350 million. And Ottawa didn't just steal that money, it also unilaterally moved forward the deadline by 2 years, the deadline for infrastructure projects, which means that Quebec only has 9 months to rush to submit applications for the $4 billion that it has a right to. If not, Ottawa will do the same thing. It will pocket the $4 billion. And too bad for our towns and municipalities with their infrastructure needs and in fighting climate change. That will just go down the drain. So will the government correct this betrayal and respect the agreement? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the agreement. The agreement that Quebec signed actually agreed to put forward the projects that they wanted to see us support and make a priority. We would love to see the infrastructure dollars identified for Quebec get out the door. But Mr. Speaker, is the member opposite actually suggesting that there are no infrastructure needs in all of Quebec over the next 3 years? I would suggest that there are significant needs that Quebec could put forward that Quebecers would love to see us contribute to, and we hope that the Quebec government will honor their agreement and put forward those priorities so we can get these funds out the door and contribute.
The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The last time inflation was this high, the Prime Minister's father was in office. A recent Ipsos poll reveals that 72% of Canadian families with kids are worried about putting food on the table. And Food Banks Canada is reporting that 23% of Canadians are eating less than they should due to rising food costs. There are many great family traditions, but making Canadians poor shouldn't be one of them. When will this government learn from the past and fix inflation before it gets worse?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we absolutely recognize that affordability is a real challenge for many Canadian families. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, we are so glad that in this year's budget and in last year's budget, we put in place affordability measures that are coming on tap now, that are supporting Canadian families today in meaningful ways. Let me talk about the Canada Workers' Benefit. This is for our most vulnerable working poor, $2,400 arriving starting in April.
For Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as my father always said, Trudeau times were tough times back in the 80s, Mr. Speaker. So we have the highest inflation rate since 1983 at 7.7%. We've heard the tired old talking points, And we know this finance minister's only solution is to increase spending and raise taxes. That is simply not working. Now more than 72% of Canadians are finding it hard to make their paycheck last till the end of the month, Mr. Speaker. This government only cares about their rich friends and elitist donors, and they really are out of touch with the realities of families across Saskatchewan. Isn't that the truth, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, when I grew up, the saying was actually Tory times are tough times. And that's what Canadians in the prairies understand. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? Let me tell you what is out of touch. What is...
I'm just going to interrupt. I'm having a hard time hearing, and I've got speakers on all sides of me here, and it's being very tough to hear. So I'm just going to ask everybody to calm down. I know, by the sounds of it, everybody wants to get back to the part of the country that they come from so that they can be with their constituents. So let's see if we can get this done peacefully and nicely so that we can all go off and say goodbye for the summer. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, thank you. So let me tell you what is really out of touch. What is out of touch is not to understand that the single most important thing for the vast majority of Canadians is to have a job. And that is why we will never apologize for a relentlessly jobs-focused approach to the post-COVID recovery. 117% of jobs recovered compared to just 96% in the U.S., Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
The Liberals want to make inflation about international events beyond their control. They blame Russia for the rising costs of food and gas. They blame travelers for their airport mess. They blame Canadians for waiting too long to renew their passports. They blame individual complexities for the immigration backlog. Skyrocketing housing, not their fault either. The government is quick to take credit when things are good and blame everyone else when Canadians are struggling. Can anyone on the other side answer a basic question or at least tell us when they plan on bringing people back to work to fix their chaos?
The Honourable Minister for Family.
I think the member opposite owes the hard-working public servants an apology, because when it comes to Service Canada, they have been back in the office for months serving Canadians. These are the same people who delivered 9 million Canadians.
Shame on you!
I'm going to have to wait a moment. Please let me know when we can continue. I think we can continue. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite owes the hard-working public servants an apology, because they have been working day in and day out to serve Canadians. I understand that Canadians are frustrated. There are a lot of challenges right now, and this government is working hard to serve them. The only thing I can conjure from that member's response is that unlike hardworking people across this country, when the members of Parliament, Conservative members of Parliament were working from home, they weren't working. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Once again, I just want to remind everyone that I know tensions are high and everybody is looking forward to getting out of this place, but please be judicious when we use our words. The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle.
Monsieur le Président. Mr. Speaker, this year, planting season was stressful and uncertain for our agricultural producers. The increase in the cost of inputs limited their capacity to invest in their operations. Given the context, can the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food tell this House about the latest measures implemented to help our farmers? Thank you very much. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have good news for farmers today. I would like to announce that we will increase the interest-free portion of the advance payments program for 2 years that represents an increase in the threshold from 100,000 to 250,000.
We will increase the interest-free portion of the advance payment program from $100,000 to $250,000. This will represent $61 million back in the pocket of farmers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
RCMP Superintendent Campbell's notes reveal Commissioner Lucky told the RCMP that she had promised the Minister of Public Safety and the Prime Minister's office the force would disclose which firearms were used in the mass shooting to advance the government's pending gun control legislation. Former RCMP Commissioner Paulson says Superintendent Campbell, quote, is one of the best investigators in the force and a highly reliable officer with tremendous integrity. You won't find a practicing police officer who will speak ill of Darren Campbell, end quote. Speaker, does the minister believe Superintendent Campbell?
Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe you won't find a former police officer that will speak ill of him either, and I'm not speaking it in any way. But, Mr. Speaker, I would point the members as well to the Commissioner's statement in which he said it's important to note that the sharing of information and briefings with the Minister of Public Safety are necessary, particularly during a mass shooting event. And she said, I take the principle of police independence extremely seriously, and it has been and will continue to be fully respected. Mr. Speaker, there was no interference in this case.
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
RCMP Superintendent Campbell is an honest officer with a solid reputation. Former commissioners, deputy commissioners, and other RCMP veterans from across Canada are speaking up to defend the man's character. Campbell's notes show that his team of investigators were under political pressure and interference from Brenda Lucki on behalf of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Public Safety. But this Ottawa gang have all denied they meddled in the most tragic crime in Nova Scotia's history. It's never the crime, it's always the cover-up. Someone is lying, and it's not Campbell. Is it Lucki, the Prime Minister, the former Minister, or all three?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we make no comment whatsoever in a conversation between the Commissioner and her subordinates, and I have no reason and will not and have not questioned the Superintendent's integrity. But, Mr. Speaker, I would remind my colleagues that there is an independent public inquiry currently underway in Nova Scotia, the Mass Casualty Commission. These issues of how communications were done are being addressed, and where witnesses will be called to testify under oath. Mr. Speaker, the Mass Casualty Commission and their work is important to the families and victims of victims' families in Nova Scotia, and we support their important work.
Well, member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mark Norman, Jody Wilson-Raybould, Darren Campbell. What do they all have in common? They spoke truth to power and their reputations were attacked, but not before the Liberals gaslit Canadians about their underhanded role in manipulating the criminal justice system. In Campbell's case, the Prime Minister, the former Minister, and the RCMP Commissioner are staying true to form. They've all lined up a fall guy, but Canadians won't buy it this time. When will the good guys stop paying the price? And when will the Liberals stop manipulating the criminal justice system to suit their crass political self-interest?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would state that any claim of any criticism of Superintendent Campbell is just crass political self-interest from the member opposite. There's been no criticism of Superintendent Campbell. Just a simple statement of fact, Mr. Speaker. And the simple statement of fact is that there was no interference in this case. The Commissioner has confirmed it, and there was no interference, no pressure, no promises.
You can still clean it up. Once again, I just want to remind the honourable members that accusing people of, or someone, I can hear the shout coming out, and it's easy to narrow into about 3 or 4 voices. And one in particular, I don't want to hear that accusation again. Thank you. The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a long and proud history of welcoming newcomers with open arms. There are several amazing organizations in my riding of Richmond Hill that provide support services to help people settle into their new communities. It takes immense bravery to move to a new country, and while this choice is typically made by adults, we know that newcomer children and youth can also be deeply impacted. This is especially the case for young people who arrive to Canada as refugees. Can the Minister of Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship tell us what actions are being taken to ensure the newcomer children and youth have access to culturally sensitive mental health supports.
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague, who I would note is a champion for mental health and has been since the day that I've met him. Children who are fleeing war are amongst the most vulnerable people in the world. I'm so pleased to share that earlier this week I was able to announce that through a partnership with the Kids Help Phone, they're going to be providing services in Pashto, Dari, Ukrainian, and Russian for the newcomers from Afghanistan and Ukraine who are seeking services and need mental health supports in our communities. I'm so proud because this is part of a $2 million project. Over the next couple of years, it's going to see the Kids Help Phone expand their services into over 100 different languages to serve Canadians and newcomers to our communities. I'm so proud of this investment, and once again want to thank my colleague for his advocacy for mental health, in particular for refugee children in Canada.
Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals should never have bought the Trans Mountain Pipeline. It threatens our climate and our coasts, and now the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the government's own watchdog, has confirmed it will lose money. Unbelievably, the Liberals promised to use the profits from TMX to fight the climate crisis. But now what's their excuse? Losing money isn't a plan to fund climate action. This pipeline has always been a lose-lose for Canadians and a failure for the Liberals. So why does the Prime Minister keep doubling down on this economic and environmental boondoggle?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians, we know how important it is to get our resources to market and to get fair value for them. And Russia's war in Ukraine is yet another reason Canada needs to be concerned about energy security for ourselves and for our allies. The government does not intend to be the long-term owner of this project. A de-investment process will be initiated once the project is more advanced, de-risked, and critically, when consultations with Indigenous peoples are concluded.
The Honourable Member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, fuel costs continue to soar. Inflation and food prices are at their highest in 40 years. With Canadians facing unprecedented struggles to get by, the government reverts to re-announcement of programs. Mr. Speaker, government smoke and mirrors won't pay the mortgage or rent, nor does it put food on the table. Will the government eliminate its disgraceful triple-dipping tax on gas? President Biden has asked for a 3-month federal gas tax holiday. Has this government clued in on this? Is it going to do anything?
The Honourable Minister, the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question, because it gives me a chance to talk to Canadians about the measures that we have in place to help them with affordability. This year, there will be a $500 payment to help Canadians who are facing challenges with housing affordability, because we know that that is a real challenge for many. This year, the OAS is going to increase by 10%. That means seniors 75 and older will get an additional $815, Mr. Speaker.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have today for question period. C'est tout le temps que nous avons. Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there's an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of Air India Flight 182. I now invite the honourable members to rise. Si. Conformément à l'ordre.
Pursuant to order made on Thursday, November 25th, 2021, the House will now...
Monsieur Small, à l'amendement sur la motion portant deuxième lecture 21. Call in the members.
And the cabinet ministers all leave before the vote.
The question is on the sub-amendment. Mr. Mendicino, seconded by Mrs. Saint-Onge, moved that Bill C-21, an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments, firearms, be now. May I dispense? Okay, very good. Okay, sorry, no, I start this one. Ms. Dancho, seconded by Mr. Barrett, move the following amendment, that the motion be amended by deleting all the words after the word, may I dispense? Very good, thank you.